Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim,
And I'm Tia.
and we're so excited to have you with us today. It is December 31st,
Yay.
the
We're
last,
recording this a little early, but it's going to go live on December 31st.
yes,
So we're
last
so
day
excited.
of 2020.
What a day.
Oh my goodness.
Let's hope
Yeah,
nothing major happens between this recording and now. It's 2020. We have no
I know.
idea.
I have to just share before we start with the quote. I have to share. I don't know if I already said this to you, but I ordered some Christmas tree ornaments that have like all these little pictures on it of all the things that happened in 2020. There's like a roll of toilet paper. There's,
Oh,
Black Lives Matter, like all these little things on an ornament for the
oh,
tree.
that's a great idea.
Such an iconic year for sure. So
Most definitely.
yeah, so we're going to talk about and reflect on 2020 in a moment, but I'll start with the quote like we
Okay.
always do. So the quote is, I hope that in this year to come, you make mistakes, because if you are making mistakes, then you're making new things,
Mm.
trying new things, learning, living, pushing yourself, changing your world. You're doing things you have never done before. And more importantly, you're doing something. And that's by Neil Gaiman. Oh my God, I love that.
I
You know,
so love it because it's reflecting
ah,
on 2020 and intention for 2021. So it's both. It's marrying
100%.
both today. I love the mistakes.
And what comes up for me is that it is a good way to step back and
Mm-hmm.
have a perspective on the following year and really all the years in our whole entire life. Because when I'm in it, when I was in the middle of the things in 2020 or whatever year,
Yeah.
it feels so hard and so heavy. And I don't take the time to have the perspective or ability to see it as it's a learning, it's
Right.
pushing myself, it's changing myself, it's changing the world, I'm growing. Like, I don't look at it that way. I
Yeah.
always look at it like, well, you're in it, you're in
Mm-hmm.
it, and it's hard.
Yeah.
So it's like
Exactly.
hindsight is 2020 is really what this is about.
2020.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020. So
Yeah.
yeah, so where do you want to start reflecting on
Oh my
2020?
gosh. There's so much. It's such a year. And really though, when we think back, every year is a year. It's just this year has had a
Yeah,
lot more external factors,
yeah,
like global external, nationwide external. So I think that's why 2020 felt a lot different, because of all the big things happening outside of my
yeah,
home,
yeah,
and how it affected and came into the world, that the comfort zone of the home.
100%.
But I think for me, the biggest reflection of this year has been walking on that edge and getting really, truly getting outside my comfort zone to a whole new level. So, like, that
Mm,
whole quote just really resonated with me, because so many mistakes were made along the way, so many learning curves, so many, like, okay, just jump and do it. Like our podcast.
I
It came out
know.
of nowhere. And here we are. What is this, episode 61? It's just unbelievable to me
It
that
is.
we just jumped in not knowing at all what we were doing. Those first few episodes, neither one of us had a decent microphone, and the echo was so horrid. I had someone give feedback, and I appreciated the feedback. Like, I tried to listen and I wanted to start from the beginning, but the echo was so bad. I couldn't stand it. And gratefully we learned,
Yeah.
do we have a soundproof room, either one of us, and we still have an echo? Yes. But we made learning changes because of feedback from people who were willing to share critical feedback. And it was so helpful for us. So there was one thing. There was the figuring out, how do we do this? How do we upload that? Oh, we had a logo. We changed the logo 3 times now. And now we actually have a real logo. It may change in 2020, but, like, it's a logo. And how cool is that?
I
So,
know.
we didn't I appreciate working with you because we just flowed with it. And it's like we've had hard conversations when something was bothering one of us.
Yeah.
And I feel so much gratefulness for the opportunity of growth that I've had individually and collectively a lot with you. And so for
Yes.
me, that's such a beautiful reflection for me for 2020. And it's expanded outside of you and I, of course.
Yeah.
You know, I've
Me
been
too.
doing other things in my business that I wasn't comfortable doing before, and now I am. And, you know, of course, you know, just relationships outside, friends, family, you know, whatever. It's just,
Creating
it's,
teachable.
yeah.
We created teachable.
Gosh, who would
In
have
addition to
thought
podcasts.
at the beginning of the year that would have happened?
Nope. It's
No,
not on my radar.
we were just gonna do the podcast for fun. And then it was like, oh, let's create a course. How fun would that be? And let's do it for free because we want to serve, we want to support, and we want to thank people for supporting us. And that original Balancing Your Backpack course that we did fulfilled me up and gave me some
too.
insight too on how to take care of myself even a little bit more. And now we're doing like our first paid course. How scary and exciting is that for 2021? We're so excited.
Yeah. I love creating that class.
Me too.
I love creating that one. I just love getting my creative mind going, and creating courses definitely fills that need. You know, when you were talking about just like how out of nowhere the podcast came up and so on and so forth, what resonated for me was that when the universe knocks on the door,
yes,
it's being open and aware enough to just, you know, answer the door and then say, yes, okay, step in and walk into it. That's new. Totally. That's a new for me.
And to trust it and trusting that you don't have to have it perfect. I mean, like the layers of the perfectionist mask. I mean, I've been peeling that one off for, gosh, I don't know how many years, but this year has really like, I mean, how many times are we recording and you like, I'll never forget the episode when the blender started going in the background. Yes. You know, or Ozzy or one of the cats or bunnies decides to make an appearance and we just flow with it, where like 2 or 3 years ago, it would have been like, stop, let's start over. Who cares? This is who we are. This is the life that I'm living with crazy animals who I love and adore. Yeah. And I so appreciate that you were willing to flow with all those disruptions as well, because they've typically been on my end with animals.
Yeah, I have the daughter popping in, but she really doesn't during recording. But you're right. It's about being imperfect, right? And we have been on this journey of authenticity, of coming back to our true selves, and we've talked about it in so many podcasts, that it's a returning home to who we truly are, imperfect and all. And so if we're on the path to becoming more awakened, more enlightened, more home to ourselves, we can't not get to this point of jumping out there, taking a leap of faith, doing a podcast. I was thinking about this morning, actually, reflecting, and this is what we're talking about, is reflecting. My big pattern my whole life was to not let myself be seen. The thing that I crave and want the most from others is to be seen, truly, truly seen for my inherent self. And it's the thing that I hide. It's what I've hid the most, because I have been too afraid to be vulnerable and allow myself to be truly seen. So I've worn so many masks through my whole life. And it gives me chills when I think about this, that it is so fitting, so apropos that we are doing a podcast that is called Masks Off, because that is what I have so truly wanted my whole life, is to be seen. And now I'm allowing the whole world to see me and hear me. Right. And I'm showing up and being me. Right. And it's so liberating, so freeing. And I am finding it's easier, and oddly enough, it is easier for me to do with the whole world than it is still with the people that are closest to me. I still have some work to do there. The people that know me the most don't really know me because I'm still, and not as much. I still have taken the mask off quite a bit, but I haven't allowed myself to be completely vulnerable with those close people that know me the most to say, this is who I truly am.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
And I think it's harder because when we do show up that way with those closest to us or people who have known us for a long time or whatever, it's like all of a sudden you've changed. You're not who, and it's like, no, actually, have I changed? Maybe on the form level, but I'm actually who I have always been. You're just seeing it because I'm willing to be seen now. And so that's always really hard because it's like, when we start to live with that authenticity and speaking our truth and being who we are, like we are on this podcast, like we are on our courses, like we are in our Facebook community, we just are who we are. And when we notice a mask wanting to come back in, we take the time to like deconstruct and like, no, I'm not going to do that. I might sneeze, just a warning, people. Feel the tickle. But when we do it in our real life, I mean, this is our real life. But like with those that have known us for a long time, you get a different pushback or a judgment per se. And I'm just speaking globally here. It's not that way with everyone. And then there's that inner judgment, inner fear, like, oh, I'm being seen and they don't like who I truly am. I should go back and be who they want me to be, but I can't do that. But in the process, you get I noticed that you're not the same, or that or the other. So it feels like rejection, but when we're in our inner truth, it's really not rejection. If that makes sense. It's not a real rejection. It's a reflection. That they're not in their true self.
Do you want to say a little bit more about that? Because
I mean, I think the biggest thing I'd want to add to that is that's not a judgment. So when there's a reflection back, I literally have no judgment. And I also have to go within and be like, okay, am I actually being authentic, or am I trying to mold into a different form? And so I have to remember to what am I wearing a mask? Is it being a sneaky mask? Because we've talked about that, how the masks, they never go away. They're still there and they still may pop on, but they might get a little sneakier in how they show up. So being our true self, being authentic in our day-to-day life, let's call it that. I don't know. What else do you want to call it? I don't want to say real life. Doesn't feel right.
I was thinking inner world, outer world, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
and not to say like podcasts and stuff that we do is my outer world.
Right.
It's my inner,
because I can't separate it in the same way that I used to.
It's almost like circles, right? The concentric circles. It's like my inner circle is, my family, my husband, my kids, but it's also my family of origin. It's close friends, that's probably my inner circle. And then as you go outward, then you have, maybe more of some other friends on the outside. Then it could be co-workers. It could be, people that you're working with, business things that we're doing, our pod, and as the circles go out, right. And then it's the service people, my hairdresser, my trainer, like that's how, so where, or even communities that I belong to. I go to I belong to some communities. I go to an Al-Anon meeting. That's an outer circle. Although in that outer circle, my mask's off. I'm showing up and being me. I show up and I'm being me in podcasts. I'm showing up and being me in our Facebook communities. On the outer circles, the inner circle is where, and again, it's more the people that have known me for a lifetime.
So my thought, my feeling, whatever is, it's easier to be our true selves in the communities where other people are working towards it. It's easier to be our true selves where we know that person is, if we say something that they feel offense to or triggers them, we know, like when I say something to you, I know, like, if you get poked, you're going to do your work.
Yes.
And you're not only going to say you blah, blah, blah. And maybe I would do something that would be harmful, but but I know that if I did, I would go back and do self-reflection. You would do self-reflection, and we could come together and have a conversation from a place of, hey, I just want to let you know I was a little poked here. This is what showed up for me, or vice, or you know what, I stepped out of line, I apologize. And it's a real, true apology, right? So we know in those circles where people are walking along the path, it's easier to be authentic. And then those inner circles, family of origin, yada, yada, there's a fear of rejection because we're no longer living the life that we were prescribed to live by culture. And so when you push against it with the people who have always thought, well, you're always going to do this, you're always going to take care of that, you're always going to take care of that and that and that and that, and I know, and no longer we're not taking care of them because we trust that they can take care of themselves. There's pushback, and you've changed, and you're not the person that you say you were. So then there's a rejection. So I think the rejection is harder versus if someone's listening to our podcast and we're not resonating with them and they just don't listen again.
Right.
Well, then we're not energetically aligned, and that's okay.
Exactly.
It's not personal.
I don't know.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense, because if you're talking about that alignment, that energetic alignment, so, again, who I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or any of us that are on a path to becoming more authentic and coming home to ourselves, as you do become more authentic. And this is really beautiful. This is so beautiful that we're having this conversation, because this comes full circle from the day one, when we started Masks Off, because this is what we're talking about, is the mask. So it's beautiful. So, I lost my point, but as we take the masks off, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that energetic alignment is just that I'm no longer, like you said, I'm no longer in the role or looking.
The role, yes.
Role. It's a role. Yeah. And if I had this certain mask on 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, or whatever, and a person is used to seeing me with that mask, now I've pulled that people pleaser mask off. I pulled that rescuer mask off. I pulled off the mask of martyr of perfection. And now it's like, oh, wow, you, like, this is what I think you were trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong. You look completely different without that mask on. Right. You look like
you're not doing what you normally would do.
I'm not doing what a people pleaser would do. I'm not doing what a rescuer would do. Right. Or at least less of it. I want to be authentic and honest with all of you to say that I'm still working really, really hard, especially the rescuer one. I put that one back on often with my kids, and then they remind me, and then I'm like, oh, yep, you're right. I just put that mask on for a moment here. I was trying to rescue you. I was trying to fix. And this is what you were just saying about how we can have that conversation and we can deconstruct. So it's easier to like show up and do that, because it's easy for them also, because I'm like, oh yeah, I did just have that on, and I'll own it and I'm aware of it. And then we can have this conversation. So the energy does kind of flow back and forth. So you're right. But it can be difficult for some people that have known me all along, or not just me, but any of us who are used to seeing us in one way. Right. And you're right. They're not rejecting you, who you are as a person. They're rejecting the fact that you are changing and you're not wearing the mask anymore. And you look different.
Benefits them.
And it no longer benefits.
Right. And I think a big part, and I remember, I think it was in one of Dr. Shefali's courses where it's that, and maybe it was someone else, but basically, when we are so taking care of others, we're taking away their power to take care of themselves. And that,
Absolutely.
and so for me, it was so hard to do,
Yeah.
to put into practice with those I'm close to. But it also, I knew I had to do it for my own self and for them, because I was doing
Yeah.
a disservice to me and a disservice to them. And then they can choose, what do they want to do with their life?
My kids have been my greatest teachers in
Yeah.
that respect, greatest teachers that I need to let them learn how to fly on their own.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, if we're really, really, really honest with ourselves, that's truly what we want as moms. If, you know, if you're a mom and you have kids, if you're really honest, you really want them to be able to fly on their own.
Totally.
And I remember somebody saying once that as a mom, you want, or as a parent, you want to work yourself out of a job.
Exactly. Totally.
I don't want the job. I don't want the job anymore. I don't. I really don't.
We do have adult children, let's be clear.
Yes, I know. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
we
we're
do.
not talking about little ones here.
Yes, yes. And I can see it even with them at times where, you know, they'll fall into like a moment of, if it's a moment or a time of vulnerability, and they want me to put that mask back on. You know, like you just said, they want that role that I played. Please fix it for me. Like the comfort of please fix it. So,
and it's hard to do this with those that we love.
it's really hard. It's really, really hard.
And it's
because go ahead.
Sorry. And learning to, when we start to do this, if you have not done this with those closest to you, and you know, that's when the work really, at least for me, got hard, because I was doing it on my own, like you said, in the safety of my communities with others doing it.
Yes.
And so it was hard work, but I could do it there. So I was living two lives per se.
Yes.
Not really, not intentionally. And this is the process for many. So I'm not judging that that's what I did. And then as I started to bring it into that more inner circle, as you described, that's when it really got hard, because I could see the discomfort I was causing in others. I could see the pushback, well, wait a minute, you're not connecting with me the way you always did. But that was not a real connection, because it was based on roles and expectations. And so the connections, I want energetic connections. And I want it's not a want, that sounds like, let me step back a little bit. I want to invite people to do their own work. And if they're not ready in this lifetime, that's their choice. I have no judgment. But I can't allow that to stop me from continuing, like the quote, to make the mistakes, but to change the world in the process. And however that looks is how it looks. But it's hard. It's so
it is
hard
really
when
hard.
It's people that because you still care about these people
I know.
These people, you still care about the people that are in your inner circle.
I know.
But I can't fulfill a role that is no longer in alignment with who I truly am. And culture has told me to be.
And it's so key. And I really love that you brought up the whole part about that energetic connection. So at one point you connect on the level of the roles, like you said, there was that connection, and now there's something different, because the energy is different. Not that you are different or I'm different or anyone else that's doing the work is different. The energy has shifted. And so now there's not that synchronistic kind of connection, that deep connection with the other. And we never probably had, it was never truly that deep anyway, because it was based on the masks, right? This is huge. This is a huge episode right here. This is
hard.
Beautiful that we have gotten to this place from where we started on day one of episode 1. Because this is the nuts and bolts of it. So this is the process of taking off the masks. And I don't remember if we said way back in the beginning, but if not, there should have been a Surgeon General warning at the bottom of saying, you know, and this is not for the faint and the weary, because it is really, this is the what is it? The caterpillar and the chrysalis for sure.
Oh yeah.
And it's such a birthing process. And then as we are set free as butterflies, you know, yes, we'll feel free, but then sometimes those connections that we had, that we, you know, are, it can be hard to let them go. And you
Right.
might have to let them go. You might have to leave. You might have to walk away. Or even if you don't, even if you keep those people in your lives, and we'll be talking about this in our course, True
Right.
North, even if you choose to keep some of these people in your life, whether it's a friend or it's a sibling or it's a partner or whatever, the connection it's just different. Right?
Right.
You don't
Right.
feel that deep connection, even if they stay in your life, and it's hard.
It is hard, but it doesn't have to be wrong. I mean, who says
No.
what a connection is with each person? We get to
Yeah.
decide. And so it's knowing you have this choice
Yes.
to say, you know what, I have a deep awakening connection because you're on the journey with me. So our connection is
Yes.
different. I know I can go to you with XYZ, and with another person, you know what, I still
Yeah.
enjoy time we have together. It may be a little more surface level or whatever.
Yep.
And I can see that you're struggling, but I can no longer come in and rescue you. And so
Yes.
that's where this new relationship is, and this one and this one. And then as they may fade away over time, or they may stay, but it's not judging. It's not forcing others to walk along this path with us. It's
Definitely
just,
not.
it's a noticing, and it's an awareness, and it's a choice. And so I love the image of the caterpillar to the butterfly, because I can only speak for myself. I could never go back.
Oh, no way. Mm-mm.
I know if I went back and fell back into those roles again, my body would get sick. I know
I don't
that. I
think that
know,
we
because I wouldn't be honest and authentic. And so we've talked about body, mind, and all that in other episodes,
Yes.
that I think my body would break down quickly, because it knows there's another way, and it knows the lightness and the joy and the peace that comes with, like, this is just who I am, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's hard.
I don't think it is hard. It is, yeah.
It's
This
worth
is
it.
it is so worth it. And that is what we said at the very beginning and the outset of creating Masks Off too, was that the hope, the inspiration, the wish for all of our listeners was to be able to even touch upon or experience a little bit of what freedom, joy, authenticity, empowerment. It doesn't mean that life is rainbows and sunshines and that it is without struggle, because there's definitely struggle, there's definitely pain, and there is another side. And there is another side to all this, learning
And
how
I
to
wouldn't,
dance in the rain.
right, exactly. And I wouldn't want to get rid of the pain, because to me,
No.
pain and all those heavy, more what culture has told us difficult feelings, they're just as important and necessary as the lightness and the happiness and the laughter. I don't want sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
I don't. Because then I know I'm living a false life, because I'm not living the full experience. So I don't want that.
Then we're bypassing. And it just, like the quote says, the very first line is, I hope that in this year to come, you make mistakes.
Yep.
We can substitute or say mistake/pain.
Right.
I hope that you have it. Because if you're making mistakes, then you're making new things, trying new things.
Exactly.
And when you do new things and you make mistakes, pain comes with that. There's a growth period that's involved in that.
Right.
And so if you are learning, living, you're pushing yourself, you're changing yourself, you're changing the world.
Right. Right. And that whole image of the caterpillar to the butterfly, the caterpillar has to die.
Yeah.
I mean, the form of the caterpillar dies.
Yes.
The essence, the authenticity of the caterpillar is within the butterfly. But
yeah,
I mean, we've heard this from multiple teachers over the years. You have to continually die over and over. And it's a rebirth over and over, because every time we remove that mask, it's another little death, another little death, another little death. Yeah. And it's so, like, don't you feel, as hard and crazy as 2020 has been, with all the other external COVID, election stuff, chaos in this country in particular, I loved this year.
I know.
I really did, because I had so many opportunities with all this external stuff, never mind my own internal work and things that I had to move, other layers to shed. But it gave me so many opportunities to make mistakes, to feel the pain, to grow, to heal, and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And it's like, I think you used the word freedom earlier.
Yeah, it's freedom.
And it's alignment. And like, I feel, am I walking around with a smile and a skip in my step? That's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
For me, it's just a inner stillness is what I feel as I become more and more returning to myself, returning that true north. This is what the beginning of this process. We tried to break it down in smaller pieces, because it takes time. And for those of us on the journey, it's just, again, it's that rebirth, redoing, because the work never ends. And so that's why we are trying through True North. Our intention is to support you to find that inner stillness and know who are the people walking alongside you. What are your tools? What's important? What's not important? And then we'll continue. Our intention is to continue to create the next steps on the journey of returning to yourself, unlocking your mind and unlocking your authenticity, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yep. For
So
sure.
what was a big aha? I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I was going to ditto what you just said, in that you said you love 2020. I will say that this 2020 has been probably maybe my biggest year of growth, personal growth. My mom died at the beginning of the year.
That's how you started your year.
I started my year with my mom dying, and that was a huge, huge personal growth for me. Then I started a business. I learned hypnosis. I passed my exam. I got a website. I started the business. Then shortly after started the podcast with you. We started creating our own classes, and then I got certified in another form of hypnosis. I had so many firsts this year, so many new things, learning the technology, learning social media, what I went through with all that I learned, right? So many firsts. Yeah. My daughter graduated from high school. She went to college. There was just navigating all of the coronavirus all year long. And that taught me so much, because there's so much buzz going on the news and everyone talking about it, and how I was able to just, the majority of the time, maybe 80% of the time, 85% of the time, just stay in this space of okay with, okayness. I'm okay. Took off so many more masks. I did so much excavating of my own stuff. And so it has been a huge, huge year for growth for me.
Wow.
Yeah. I can't even begin to say how grateful I am. And in the middle of it all, like I said, it was super painful. I was in that chrysalis. I could feel it, trying to climb my way and claw my way out, to coming out of it. And just being, especially, I still have a lot to learn with the business and, newness, but
we all do.
I love doing sessions with clients. I love being able to help people to find their own, authentic selves, and to go to their core wounds and to be able to heal and transform. I love coming on to the podcast. I love talking about all this stuff. I could talk about this content morning, noon, and night, because it just raises my vibration. It lights me up to talk about authenticity and personal growth. I've taken a lot of workshops where I've grown just, from different, I'm always learning. I will always be a learner. So I'm always going to take workshops. I'm a learner and a teacher. So it has been a really good year so far.
It's amazing.
Not a good year in the sense of
right. Non-duality.
The non-duality. Exactly.
I did notice that when we were talking too. I'm so glad you brought it up, because it's not like I look back at 20, it was an amazing year. It was a year. I appreciate the challenges,
Yeah.
and the opportunities and the growth. And the year just was,
It
so
just was, yeah. And if anything, that's interesting that you say that, because if I compare 2020 to maybe 2019 or 18 or other years where I've had like quote unquote more good things going on, like a lot of traveling, a lot of trips, right? So I would say like, so at the end of every year, I take my journal out and I write down all the things that I'm grateful for, whether it's the stuff in the form and then it's the stuff in the formless where I've grown internally. And it would be, oh, I'm grateful for this trip, I'm grateful for that, blah, blah, blah. None of that happened this year.
Our trip was canceled.
Yeah. So no trips, none of that like fun stuff, material stuff that I can say. It was, if anything, it was more of the struggle for 2020.
Yes.
There's more struggle
Totally.
and challenge in 2020. And yet I'm saying here to you and to everyone listening that 2020 was by far the year where I have had the most growth personally. And I feel the best about that.
And I think it's really great that you say that, because that's been my experience as well, is for those of you who are just getting started or a couple of years in or wherever you are, it shows you this is not linear. It's not this perfect graph going up, so if you're getting discouraged and you're, well, my 2020 was really bad and blah, that's okay. This isn't a competition. It's not trying to achieve what another's achieved or not achieved. I mean, we both have been on this path for over 10 years, so, and here we are, whatever year it is, I don't even know specifically. This was one of my most like stepping into who I am without guilt. Sure, guilt came in when I saw disappointment in another.
Yeah.
But where I didn't like rush back in, so it was a year of really stepping in and being okay. Where 2 or 3 years ago, I couldn't have done that. I wasn't doing that. I know I was trying, but I kept falling back into, oh, okay, I still have to take care of your feelings too on top of mine, and, and losing myself in the process.
I'm glad you brought that point up, that you brought that up before we close and wrap up, because I do really, really hope that anyone listening can really hear that it is a process. It's a process. It is a journey. And where I was, again, like you just said, a couple of years, I wouldn't have been able to look at my situation the way I look at the situation now. I didn't have that awareness. I didn't have that, what else is it? The wisdom, whatever it is, the practice to look at my life circumstances and look at it the way that I do now.
With that non-duality piece. And I mean, and another building on that before we wrap up too, is in the next 10 years from now, we're probably going to look back and be like, oh, look at how far I've come in the last 10 years, so this is lifelong, and I want to continue to do this work and continue to heal inside, return to myself until my last breath in this form.
I think we can all, in some little way, shape, or form, even for this year, look at the yardstick behind us instead of the yardstick in front of us.
Oh yeah. And honor it. Honor the journey.
Even if it's a small little thing, it is still progress. Right. So it's progress and it's not perfection.
Right. And if there's backward progress, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because then you get to choose to take another step because you're worth it.
Absolutely. So this has been amazing and beautiful. I had no idea that we would go in this direction, which is what I love about all the episodes. It just really went where it needed to go.
Yeah.
And so I wish everyone a happy new year. 2020 filled with
all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff.
And if you're wanting to, join us on the path, we'll be starting our new
True
course.
North.
Aligning with your true north. We're going to talk about, it's 4 weeks long, and it will be live just once You'll be able to buy it after, but if you want us to be there walking alongside you on a much more consistent, intentional basis, this is the time to do it. So we're going to be starting that at the end of January. We'll post it in the show notes as well if you want to sign up. But we hope you join us, because we've said it so many times, it's an individual journey, but we're meant to do it with others.
And you know what? And join our Masks Off Facebook community.
Yeah. In the meantime.
So we have a Facebook community now, which is called Masks Off, for all of our listeners that just want to come and join. It's a way to have more interaction with us. You can always, and others, exactly. The group is growing. Obviously, you can always subscribe, or comment, or give us a review. We would love feedback. We would love your evaluation. What do you like? What resonates? What do you feel?
What do you need?
You want to need from us? What could we do differently? Again, in light of wanting to grow, feedback and evaluation is always key. So we would love to hear that from you. You can, again, do it in the comments section, whether you're watching us on YouTube or if you're listening to us. But you can join our Facebook community as well, and you can get more support from us and from others. So
because we're in there every week and multiple times a week to answer questions, and we're want to continue to serve and support others. So we are doing a kind of just a short weekly lesson touch. Not really a lesson, but a weekly touch to remember to remember. And so we hope you join us in there. It's the Masks Off community in Facebook, and just request to join and we'll get you right in.
Absolutely. Okay. Happy New Year, everyone.
New Year. Take time to reflect like we just did. You deserve it. And honor where you were in January of 2020 and where you are now.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.